This is our third Career Explorations panel discussion of a three-part series about how to become an RN. My name is Stephanie Servos, and I'll be the host today. I'm here in our recently reopened Career Center in Danville. For those who aren't familiar with the Career Center, we are located on Mill Street in downtown Danville, and our hours are 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. So if you're looking for any career advice, help with resume writing, want to talk to someone about applying for jobs at Geisinger, you can take advantage of our downtown location, or you can also schedule a virtual consultation as well. So we can drop some information in the chat, like the center's email address and the phone number if you are interested in connecting with someone or looking for some additional information on what services we offer here at the Career Center. So today we're going to hear from Becky Stout, Associate Dean of Nursing Student Education, about the programs we offer at Geisinger that can help you on your path to becoming an RN. We also have Greg Titus, Training and Development Specialist, who will be speaking about our OD programs for nursing. And lastly, we'll be hearing from one of our own nurse employees, Christy Sienkiewicz, who has gone through the process herself. So we can go ahead and get started. Becky is going to be kicking us off first. So Becky, if you're ready, I will turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Stephanie. And thank you everybody for joining today. I hope you find this information very helpful as you are exploring your career journey towards being a nurse. Background for me, I've been a nurse for 25 years. I've been with Geisinger for 18 years as a CRNA, and I've never regretted it. It's been a very fulfilling career. And if there's anything I can do to help you along with your journey, please make sure you reach out to me. So what I'm going to go over here is how Geisinger can help you become a nurse. And I get an awful lot of questions for people who have thought about nursing, but how in the world do they start? Where do I start to become a nurse? So that's a little bit what I'm going to go over, is really hit the top questions that people ask, which are pretty much: what degree do I need? How do I choose a school? And how do I pay for school? Geisinger offers a lot of options and a lot of information for you about how to do this. And so we're going to hit that today. Also, I want to point out that we do have a website called the Nursing Degree Opportunities website. It's found off the nursing channel, or it's found at this URL down here, go.geisinger.org/nursing degree. All the information we're going to be going over today is actually on this website, plus a whole bunch more information. My contact information is also on here as well. So if afterwards you need more information or want to get a hold of me, visit this website and this can help. So first of all, what do I need to become an RN? So an RN is a registered nurse, which is different from an LPN, which is a licensed practical nurse. I'm not going to be talking about LPNs today, but if you have questions about that, I'm more than happy to help you as well. RNs have a larger scope of practice. They have more responsibilities in the patient realm. Usually they have more leadership positions. And to become an RN, there's a few different degrees that you can get to allow you to sit for what's called the NCLEX RN. That's the National Collegiate Licensing Examination for Nursing for RNs. Muting my phone, make sure it doesn't go off. So there's 3 different diplomas that you can do. One is a diploma nurse. Those are associated with hospitals and not colleges because it's not a degree that you learn. They're typically 2-year programs. Nurses who come out are wonderful. They are prepared to take care of the RN, to take the NCLEX RN. We actually have our own diploma program at Lewistown. It's the Geisinger Lewistown School of Nursing. It's a 2-year diploma program. They have had 100% first-time board pass rates 8 out of the last 10 years. It's an exceptional program. Highly recommend it, and I am a little biased. The other degree you can get is another 2-year degree called an associate's degree. It's ASN, ADN, or actually there's an AAS. They all mean it's an associate's degree. Difference between those is, I will say, an ADN, which is an associate's degree in nursing, has more of the classes that you need if you're going to be looking to get your BSN afterwards. So it's got more of the sciences. On the continuum, you've got your Associates in Science of Nursing, and then you've got your AAS, Associate of Applied Science of Nursing. That one's just very compressed, gives you all the skills that you need to become a nurse at the bedside, and you can sit and take your board examination. But if you're going to be going to your BSN, you are going to have to take a lot more prerequisites before you would go to an RN BSN program. That is another 2-year program. The nice thing about going to 2-year programs, whether diploma or associate's degrees, is that you could go to school for 2 years, sit for the RN, the NCLEX RN, become a nurse, work while using the tuition benefit then to go back and get your BSN. BSN programs, RN to BSN programs are typically between 1 to 2 years. I think the average is 18 months, and you can use a tuition benefit to help pay for that. I'll talk about the tuition benefit a little bit more, but it's nice because it gets you at the bedside and gets you working a little quicker. The next thing is the bachelor's degree. This is typically a 4-year program. The difference between that and associate's degree is the bachelor's degree gives you more of a scientific background, talks more about theory, has a lot more professional development classes, such as leadership, really takes a deep dive into that, research. It also allows you to have, depending on where you go to school, liberal arts education. You can minor in other things you might be interested in, like say you might be interested in becoming a psych nurse. You could get a minor in psychology with that. Not to say you can't be a psych nurse with a diploma or an associate's, you absolutely can. But a bachelor's degree being 4 years allows you to get a little bit more education if that's something that you're looking for. And then there's also LPN to RNs. So LPNs who also want to become an RN, you can take that route doing any one of those, the diploma, associate's, or bachelor's. The only thing to think about is you will have prerequisites to take. And usually, if you're going to go LPN to RN with a diploma or an associate's degree, that'll be, again, about 18 months. And then a bachelor's degree, maybe about 3 years after your LPN, because they will go ahead and take your experience as an LPN into consideration before you go back to school as part of those credits. Okay, the next question is, how do I choose a school? How do I know where to go to? This is a great one. And then, nowadays we do have what we call brick and mortar schools where we actually go to school and sit in a classroom versus online programs. So nursing is a very hands-on interpersonal profession. So most of the schools you're going to see are in person. What we did find during the pandemic is since people couldn't go to school, because of social distancing, a lot of classes were switched to online. So a lot of online programs have popped up. I do need to let you know, though, that for clinicals, anytime you go to nursing school, you do have to do clinical rotations, meaning you are in the hospitals taking care of patients. Geisinger won't support for online programs. This is the reason for it. Online programs, you do all your coursework online and you do all your classes online, and then those schools will want whoever your host institution would be, so let's say Geisinger, who do your clinicals, to do 100% of your clinical education. We're not able to do that because they want us to assign grades, teach you all the skills, and do all the responsibilities that the school should be doing. So in order for you guys to get the best experiences, though, we decided we're only going to support the brick and mortar schools. If you have any other questions regarding that, just let me know. And then when you're thinking about schools, figure out what it is you're looking for. What kind of support do you need? You could ask if they have tutoring. Do they have counselors if you're looking for that? Is it possible to get mentorships? How about tech support? If you've never had a chance, you haven't been in school for a while and you're not really sure how to use the different word things or any of the online IT type stuff. Do they have a good orientation? That's one thing I always suggest asking about. If you haven't done online courses, because everybody does stuff online using like Canvas, there's all sorts of different programs, Blackboard, Moodle, you might have heard of them. Ask if there's an orientation to those before you actually dive in. Thinking about your lifestyle, ask if there's full-time or part-time options. Maybe you want to continue to work, go to school more slowly, and go to part-time. Most schools do have that kind of an option. Ask if they have weekend or evening classes. We're going to find that a lot of schools now are switching that because they understand people need to work. So maybe they only, like I know Penn College, they have a program where all classes and clinicals are only Fridays and Saturdays to try to tailor it to the working person. Talk to your manager about scheduling flexibility. They understand that we need a lot of nurses, and so maybe they could help. One of the things I did for one of the times I went back to school is I had classes every Friday, so I worked 10-hour shifts. And that was how I was able to get my classes in. So think about that for flexibility. If where you're at, like say you're at a clinic that don't allow flexibility of being able perhaps to work weekends, because I did weekend shifts too, um, ask it, maybe you might consider transferring to another role and your friends at HR can help you with that to see what other job openings are, or maybe you could go flex. We also have something called an educational leave of absence. The nice thing about that is if you decide to go to school part-time and not work, it maintains your seniority while you're in school. You do lose your benefits with that, but you do maintain your seniority at Geisinger. Again, more information, HR can help you with that. The other thing is I get question is, how do I know the school's good? How do I know that the school I'm applying to is a good thing? Everybody is required per their accreditation to put on their website what their board pass rates are and what their job placement rates are. That has to do with their accreditation. So take a look at that. Just to let you know, all schools are supposed to have 80% or above for the first time pass rates. And that's why I was telling you about our own school of nursing, 100% last 10 years. It's been fantastic. And it's like 90% job, actually it's more than 90% job pass rates within the first or job placements. So it's really good. And that should be on all the websites. We do have partner schools across the entire region. They're all listed again on our website with links to their websites, individual school websites. These are great because they arrange your clinical rotations with the school themselves. So the schools will contact us to arrange your clinical rotations. These are all on. You'll see Bloomsburg University has a BSN program. There's our Lewistown Hospital diploma. Lackawanna College just started an ADN. LCCC has an ADN. Marywood has a BSN. Misericordia has a BSN. Misericordia also just started an accelerated BSN program, meaning if you already have a bachelor's in another field, you can go back and get your bachelor's in nursing. And it's like, I think their program's 18 months. So it's very quick. Penn State Scranton. Penn College has an AAS and a BSN. So they have two different ones that they offer. Penn State University, of course, Scranton, and then Wilkes University. And Wilkes University also has an accelerated bachelor's program as well. And theirs is just 1 year. The other thing I want to mention is LCCC pairs with King's College, and they have a one-to-one program with their BSN. How that one works is you go to King's for a year, then you go to LCCC to learn your associate's degree. You can start working, go back to King's College for a year and get your bachelor's degree. So it's another nice program that we have. So finally, how do I choose a school? What do I need to do? I gave you a list of different options to consider, regionally, where you want to go, how you want to do it, full-time flex, that sort of thing. Write a list. These are the things I really need. These are the things that aren't that important to me, but would be nice if I had them. And then when you're investigating the schools, you'll have this list to be able to choose from. Look at their websites. As I said, on the nursing degree website, we have a link to all our regional schools, but look at their websites. They're going to give you a lot of information about their curriculum and their application process. And then finally, give them a call. You could talk to the school themselves within the program of nursing, the admissions counselors. They have student ambassadors sometimes. You can ask the students what they think, and you can go visit the campus. Everybody should be willing to give you a tour and you can see where you've been learning from. And finally, the best thing is just ask your colleagues. Find someone who graduated from that school and ask them, what do you think? Was this a good program? Or do you guys have recommendations of where I should go? All right, the other big question I get is, how do I pay for school? This is my lifelong dream, and how do I want to do this? There's a lot of help available for that. First of all, there's federal loans that you can get. Those are nice because the schools will help you apply for them. They are based on need. You don't have to pay anything back until 6 months after you graduate. to give you time to get a job and get your footing, and then you can start paying back the loans. So it's deferred for 6 months. And if you decide to go back to school, let's say you start with an ADN and you want to go to get your RN to BSN, while you're in school again, those federal loans are on hold and they are deferred until you're finally finished with your other program. So that's a nice perk. And the money you get from federal loans can be used for anything that you need. So if you actually need it for living expenses too, you can use it for that as well. You also have scholarships. Each school has scholarships that you can apply for. Geisinger also has nursing scholarships. You might have heard about the Sue Roble Scholarship. There's going to be others that are around, and there's also regional ones. How do you find out about them? They come out in the Daily Dose. That's when you're going to get most of the information about now it's time to apply for these scholarships. As I learn about them, we're going to put them on the nursing degree website as well. So we'll have that information. I mentioned the employee tuition benefit earlier. That's something great. You guys are eligible because you are Geisinger employees. So you apply for this through HR. There's a policy, again, a link on the nursing degree website. You are entitled to $3,000 per year for your tuition. So I used this when I was in school. I went to a school who gave a deferred payment, which meant I didn't have to pay for the classes up front. They had deferred payment, so that way I could take the class. As long as you get a C in your class for this, you submit it to Geisinger, they reimburse you, and then you could go ahead and pay the school. So that's really nice, and that's $3,000 a year. And then the newly launched Geisinger's Nursing Scholars Program is a fantastic benefit that we just started. We realized we've got an awful lot of employees that want to become nurses, and we wanted to help them. So this is everybody here on this call. This does two things. One is financial help during school for a recruitment loan for a 5-year work commitment. The other part of this, and this is why it's a scholars program, is that we also are going to provide a mentoring program for you, plus educational well-being support. Greg Tyus is going to tell you about some educational courses that he is developing to help. And so these are going to be courses to prep you for college. If you haven't been for a while or if you need extra study skills, but I'm going to let Greg talk about that later. The financial portion of this, though, a quick overview, it's a total of $40,000 of financial support, as I said, for 5 years, and it's as an inpatient nurse. We're looking to support 175 scholars a year. So that's quite a bit. And it's a rolling admissions program. So there is not a deadline each year to apply. You just need to go to the website for it. How this works is while you're in school, your last 24 months of the program, you get a $20,000 education loan. If you're in a 2-year program, you get the beginning of the 2 years. If you're in a 4-year program, you get it your junior year. Then once you graduate and you start your role as a new RN, then you get another $20,000 recruitment loan. You'll get the money then. And once you start working, that's when the 5-year work commitment starts. It doesn't start while you're in school. It starts once you start working. Okay. If you need to transfer as an inpatient, you can. It just needs to be as an inpatient nurse. All right. Eligibility for the program is you just have to be an employee for 1 year. You can be flex, you can be part-time, you can be any position here within Geisinger, except for provider. I'm going to go through that the next slide. Just be an employee in good standing. So essentially don't have a lot of PIPs, haven't been suspended recently. LPNs are definitely eligible for this program. You're looking to become an LPN to RN, please apply. The application is going to ask for a letter support from your supervisor. You don't have to get that. It'll just say, we're going to contact your supervisor, and as soon as you submit your application, we will be sending an email out to your supervisor. Really simple. And then you need to be accepted to an accredited nursing program. You need to get that first, though, because we need to have your letter of acceptance uploaded into the application as proof that you're in a school. You can go part-time. That's another question I get. When you put your application in, it's going to ask what your initial anticipated graduation date is. So that's why I need to have that. Exclusion, if you're already an RN and you want to become a BSN, if you want to get an advanced degree, that doesn't count. This is just for entry-level RN positions. If you're a provider, so say you're a physician assistant looking to become a nurse, you wouldn't be eligible. And then if you have a direct family member who's part of the Geisinger administrative team, so such as if Janet Tomcavich's son, who is a nurse or is in nursing school, actually, he would not be eligible for this program because she's a chief nursing executive. And all you have to do, and I think this is the last slide, I'm going to turn it over to Greg then. What's the expectations? You just need to remain an employee in good standing. You can continue to work in your role, you can transfer, as I said, or you can take an educational leave of absence. You can take advantage of the tuition benefit while you're in the program, as well as the other money that would be given to you. You need to graduate within 1 year of your anticipated graduation date. So let's say you're going to graduate August or December of 2025. We do give you 1 extra year because life happens. And sometimes you have to put schooling on hold for a little bit and go back to it. So just within 1 year of your initial graduation date. And then after graduation, you need to work full time for 5 years as an inpatient nurse, and that's 0.875 or above. Okay. That's the website for the Scholars Program, go.geisinger.org/nursing scholars. It's got all sorts of information on there. I believe it's going to have these podcasts. It also has the application. Thank you very much. And I think I'm turning it over to Greg, and we'll take questions at the end.
Thanks, Becky. I apologize for not having a PowerPoint, folks, but I did want to be on camera and let you know that we are developing some support classes in from organizational development learning to help support this program. There are several that have been developed and are ready to launch. We're just waiting for the final list of participants, and then we'll have a calendar of the classes. So essentially, we have 2 courses. One is called Math, just helping people with basic math, working with multiplication, division, fractions, decimals, metric units. So some of those types of things. But those will be provided in 3 different modules, and we'll be offering them several different times prior to the start of a school year. We're trying to kind of gauge where that is. But again, we're waiting for the final list of participants. But we do have a proposed schedule that we're finishing up. The other one is called Time Task Management. So it's about helping people learn to plan their activities and manage their activities versus the time it takes to do them. But teaching some planning tools and working towards accomplishing those tasks that you have on your list to get them done and to feel better about those kind of things. Some other things in the works that we're partnering with the School of Medicine to come up with kind of a generic, here's how to navigate a learning management system, depending on what school you apply to. If you're working within their learning management system, it may be different than the example we show, but just to give you some basics, and that will be like an on-demand video. So we're working on that with the School of Medicine. We'll also be putting together some things around study skills. We're also looking at providing some resources around finance management, because to manage a loan of that size is kind of daunting. So we wanted to reach out to Fidelity Investments and also to our employee assistance program partner to find some resources that we'll post on the site once we get those finalized. So those are some of the things that organizational development learning are helping to provide support to the people that are going to receive this loan and return to school to work on their RN degree. So Steph, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Greg. That's really exciting stuff. I think we're all really looking forward to those prep courses going live. I think that's going to be so helpful for, folks who might have some hesitation on their readiness or just want to do some refreshers before, diving right into school again. So really awesome stuff. So next up, we have Christy Sienkiewicz to share with us just a little bit about her journey in nursing and what her experience has been so far. So Christy, to start us off, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, your current role, and how long you've been at Geisinger?
I'm an LPN. I've been at Geisinger for 12 years. I graduated LPN school in December of 08, and I started with CMC January of 09, and I've been there the 12 years. I've been on the same floor. And just kind of after the 12 years, I was just feeling limited. I wanted to be able to provide all the care to my patients and not have to, have assistance from the RNs. So I thought, I'm going to go back to school. It was definitely intimidating. I'm not a traditional student. I've been out of school for quite some time. But with the help and support of family, friends, my coworkers, my manager, I was able to complete it, and I graduated in May, and that's it.
That's awesome. I totally get, I mean, you mentioned being out of school for so long, and I feel like that's where the work that that Greg had just mentioned, these prep classes that are coming up, I think are really going to be helpful for those who have been out of school for so long.
Oh my God, absolutely.
A refresher of some sort like that, just to kind of give them that extra confidence boost that, hey, you can do this. And
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, super helpful. So 12 years ago, you started at Geisinger. That's incredible. How did you get to Geisinger?
I had started there. I had a friend that had been there a long time, and I knew her through, we had horses. So I grew up with her. She was like a second mom to me. And she had been there, and I had applied I worked as a nurse's aide quite a few years before that. And then something happened. They had like let the aides go or something. And then I went back to school, and she got me in, and that's how it started.
Awesome. And so when and where did you decide that you wanted to go to nursing school?
I decided I wanted to go to Luzerne County Community College. Like Becky said, I had asked my coworkers, I said, what's a good program? The 4-year programs at some of the universities were intimidating, especially with the amount of debt I would accrue. And a lot of my coworkers said, Luzerne's a quick program. Their pass rate is really good. We recommend that. So I looked into that, and it did take me 4 years. I had to go part-time because I worked part-time and I do have a family, and I had to do all my general education studies and stuff first, but it was worth it. I do feel prepared.
Yeah, and it's nice that you had the option to do it part-time too. I know that that was something that Becky touched on in her presentation, making a list and deciding what's something that you absolutely need when you're going back to school, like what that school can offer you. So it's great that you were able to do that part-time. And I know that Luzerne is such a popular choice for so many people going to nursing school. It's a great program. So that's great. So what did you look for when you were selecting a school? We were just talking about, Becky's presentation and making that list of things. What was important to you when you were researching schools?
Definitely the pass rate. I wanted to make sure I felt prepared. The cost, absolutely. Even being an out-of-county resident, it was cheaper than some of the other schools in the area, and just the reputation.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what were some of your drivers for going back to school? You mentioned, being in an LPN role and, just kind of looking for a change. What made you choose nursing in particular?
Well, as an LPN, like I always want to be a nurse. But as an LPN, you almost feel limited. You can't provide everything to your patients. You have to go and, I would have to ask the RNs that I work with to, to give IV push meds or hang blood. And they're all the ones I work with are absolutely wonderful. I can't say enough good things about them. But I'm like, I could do this. This isn't, I could get my butt back in school and I could do this. So that's kind of, that, and plus my family, I want to, do better for my daughter and my husband. And
Yeah. Well, and I think it's like a great example of being a role model for your family too. You just mentioned your daughter and, being able to prove not only to yourself, but, your family that you can do whatever, anyone on this call can do whatever you set your mind to. So I think that's awesome. Awesome. And so, we're talking about your family. What kind of support did you have when deciding to go back to nursing school? Like, what kind of conversations did you have with your family about that?
I talked to my husband, and he was a huge supporter. He goes, I'll stand behind you. I'll do whatever you want. He was there. He proofread my papers for my English classes. My daughter would help me do flashcards. My parents were involved in, babysitting and stuff. Even like my manager and stuff at work, they never gave me a hard time about, I need this day off for classes, or I need this day for clinicals. It was okay, whatever you need, Christy, we're here to help you. So that was, just a big relief.
Yeah, that's awesome. It makes it so much easier when you have that support, of course, but, from your family, but definitely from your manager and your department to be able to support you, you know, with your hours and everything like that. So that's great. And it almost sounds like you guys almost were like, could make it into a family game night, you know, with the flashcards and working with your
We
daughter.
did.
That's awesome. And so one of my final questions for you is what advice do you have? You know, we have some folks on the line obviously interested in, you know, pursuing a career in nursing. So what advice do you have for anyone on the line, anyone that's going to be listening to this recording and you know, interested in pursuing the same thing?
If nursing you feel is something you want to do, it's not just a job. It's not, you know, it's like a calling. You'll know if you're meant to do it. And if it's, you know, in your heart and you want to do it, go for it. Anybody could do it. Look, I did it.
Well, wonderful. Christy, thank you so much for sharing with us today. I
Thank
will
you.
ask that you stay on the line with us just a little bit longer because I'd like to open the discussion up to our audience. So everyone on the line, please feel free to use the chat to ask any questions, or if you'd like to unmute yourself as well, you can do that now and ask your question directly if that's okay too. I'll give a minute for anyone who has a question to type in the chat. We do have someone monitoring the chat for us, so give that just a minute. These can be questions for Christy, Becky, anything in regards to the OD work happening.
Hey, Steph, there was a question for Christy or Becky. Any tips for someone who's working part-time or full-time but looking to go back to nursing school? Any tips you have for that individual?
I would say, you know, you just have to make sure you have a support system. I definitely would not be able to have done it by myself. Nursing school, I'm sure these others can attest to it, is very difficult and it's time consuming. And, you know, you definitely need help.
I echo Christy's thoughts, and I also loved her story because her support system was both her family and her work family. And I think that's important to have the support on both ends. So definitely, because what you're going through is different than other majors. I could tell you that my husband is in geography and he couldn't understand why I was studying so much. So I finally gave him like flashcards like Christy did. And he goes, okay, now I get it. So having that support at home is important, but then also make sure you talk to your manager. Let your colleagues know this is a great thing. You're going back to school. It shouldn't be a secret. It should be a source of pride. And you garner that support. And again, if for some reason where you work isn't able to support your needs to be able to keep working, if that's what you need to do, again, reach out to HR and see if there is other opportunities for you that perhaps you could transfer to another role that has a more flexible schedule. And that could better support your needs for your school obligations.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of piggyback onto what Becky just said, you know, obviously reaching out to HR, come to the Career Center. You know, we're in Danville, and also, always welcoming virtual appointments, to those who can't make it here. And we're always happy to help, with the job search if you do need that flexibility, looking for another position that will kind of help make that transition easier for you.
It looks like we have a question in the chat. I have not been with Geisinger very long. Would I need to wait to apply for the loan program?
It's a great question. We're just asking that you are here for a year before you would start school. So you could start looking for schools. If you've only been here for a few months, but by the time you would start school would be a year, then you would totally be eligible. So it doesn't have to be a year today. And applying to school takes a little bit of time. you get accepted, and then you start your program a little later. So that all factors into it as well.
Becky, you had mentioned earlier in your presentation that Geisinger offers out scholarships and they'll usually come through the DD. Give or take, what is the timeline that people can expect to see those communications out in the Daily Dose? Is it, summertime before the fall semester starts, or what is, an idea of when people can expect to just kind of be looking out for that stuff?
That is a really great question. Unfortunately, I don't have a really great answer for that.
Okay.
So they're distributed at different times throughout the year. And it depends if they're the system-wide, like the Sue Roble, or if it's regional ones. I know there's a few scholarships up at the northern regions. We're kind of looking now to start to categorize them to better wrap our arms around. So that way, as Stephanie, like you suggest, maybe they could be a little bit more predictable. So all I could say right now is keep an eye out. There's no particular type of year, and some are endowments. And so they are for to be dispersed at certain times of years. It's just there hasn't been like a central management area yet, but we are working on that.
Awesome. Thank you. Any other questions at this time?
Okay, we had one more question come through. I'm starting at Luzerne County Community College in August. Gen Eds for the first semester. Would I be able to apply for other scholarships, not the nursing scholar?
Absolutely. Yeah. The nursing scholars program, you just need to be accepted into the nursing program itself. So Christy, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe at LCCC, if you need to take gen eds, it's like a conditional for nursing. And then once you finish those, then you actually get accepted into the nursing program.
Yeah, you have to have them completed before you can apply.
Yeah. So once you get them and you get your actual acceptance letter to the nursing program, then you can apply for the nursing scholars program. And it's a rolling admissions to that, so you're not going to miss any deadlines. Whenever you get that, your approval, your acceptance letter, then you can go ahead and apply.
And also, would she be able to utilize something like the tuition reimbursement program or the bed badmin?
All of them, yes.
Yep.
Yep, along with the scholars program, and you can use those beforehand as well.
And another great question, what if I have the Gen Eds already done? Can you still apply to a 2-year program?
Absolutely. Yeah, the nice thing about having Gen Eds done is that maybe you won't have to take as many courses then. And I should clarify, we're talking about LCCC with the Gen Eds and them having them done before you're accepted to the nursing programs. Other nursing programs, the Gen Eds are actually part of the nursing program itself. It's all considered rolled up into one. So the schools are all different when you apply. All you need though to apply for the scholars program is a letter of acceptance to the nursing program, and you'll see that when you get it. But just so nobody on the call thinks that you have to get your gen eds before you apply to nursing programs, they're all different. The websites will tell you what you need.
And then one other question for Christy and or Becky. Can you provide any insight around what it's like to be a Geisinger nurse?
Well, I would say I've been there for 12 years, so it's I'm quite happy there. You know, my coworkers are great. The management is wonderful. I really don't have a bad thing to say. You know, if it was bad, I wouldn't have stayed for 12 years, and nor would I be staying longer.
I have to say the neat thing about being a Geisinger nurse is there really is a Geisinger family. I say that's not just a catchphrase. I have been so impressed where I am, where when we have, personal issues, cancers, deaths in the family, whatever, and everybody needs help, everybody just bands together and pitches in money. Or we had one guy with cancer that we arranged, so we had his lawn mowed while he was doing chemotherapy, and we brought food to his family. And to me, that's why I'm staying at Geisinger. I have no plans to go elsewhere. There's ups and downs at everywhere, but the Geisinger family itself and how well we support each other is absolutely amazing.
I'm so glad you shared that, Becky. That's so sweet. I love that. Are there any other questions? I do know that this is our part 3, so we've had a lot of information within the 3 sessions that we've done, so a lot has been covered. So if there aren't any other questions, I'm happy to give everyone a little time back today. If any questions do arise, please feel free to, reach out to, of course, Becky. We'll drop her email in the chat in just a minute, along with our Nursing Education Opportunities homepage, the link to that, so that you all have it as well. So yeah, and if there are any last minute questions, a few of us will be on the line, and you're welcome to drop those in the chat. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day.